So now I've finally got the M40 engine removed from the E30, I need to turn my attention to taking out all the bits and pieces that remain in the engine bay so I can finally take off this firewall, sound deadening, and see what lurks beneath. I'm expecting to find a bit of rust under there, hopefully nothing terminal, but all will be revealed. So the main objective today is to strip everything off, hopefully I can remember how it goes back together, get that bulkhead uncovered, examine that, see what's going wrong with that, get the car raised up, ready to start work, actually repairing rust on the bulkhead and wherever else I find it. So actually this is the first time ever I've looked underneath that battery. That battery looks a bit strange. It looks like it's probably the wrong size battery, but it seems strong and I think it was new when I bought it off the previous owner. And I'd noticed this cable tie holding the battery in place, and as you can see there's a bit of rust around that, so I could see this rusty corner. I thought I was going to take the battery out of here and find a whole lot of rust to fix, but actually it looks surprisingly solid. These front battery trays are a known problem, and this one actually seems really good, so that's a great start. The rust that is on the tray seems to be just surface rust as well, so that's no problem at all really. Now, as I keep mentioning, there's often horrors hidden behind this sound deadening, and we haven't looked there yet, but having a peek, looks like we might be getting lucky here as well. Let's hope this continues. We'll whip that off. Yes, this is a fork, and yes, it does work perfectly. Look at that. What a great start that is. Don't want to celebrate too early, but yet again, I'm finding out this is a good car. Right, so it's going pretty well. As you saw, I got the washer bottle removed, the coil removed, unhooked the wiring from around the front, unhooked the bonnet latch, and we got into a situation where all the wiring crosses over this tidy in the middle that would normally be behind the engine. Once that's removed and you separate the wires, you end up with two bundles, one from the driver's side, one from the passenger side, and all that's left really is to try and figure out how to remove the fuse box. There's another large bundle of wires going from the underside of the fuse box into the cabin around where the glove box is. So I need to work out how to remove that now so all that can come away. So I need to go into the car and probably remove the glove box and see where it routes. Whilst I'm at it, it'll also give me access to take out the nuts that are holding the brake booster on from the cabin side. What the hell? Ford service? So with the glove box out, we've got a much better view under here, and we can see the other side of that wiring that goes out into the fuse box. Now, unfortunately, there's not just a nice big connector here we could undo to take it out that way, so we'll have to figure that one out. But I've also removed some of the sound deadening. It's very brittle, so I've kind of just cut it as neatly as I could. And now we've got good access to the back of the brake booster as well, where we can see those 4 nuts that we'll need to undo to take it away. There's also this clevis pin which is on with this clip. Once we've undone those, we should be able to take the brake booster out frontwards. Right, so with the booster unhooked from the inside, she's now rocking around a bit. So the only thing really holding it on are the 3 brake lines. So let's whip those out and hopefully not get brake fluid bloody everywhere and take it away. is all going to vent it out before I get this one done. Damn it!
If you're doing this yourself, definitely drain the master cylinder first, because that was a pain in the ass.
So that's the brake booster and master cylinder off, and we've cleaned up that mess. I've decided to leave the fuse box where it is for now, because even looking from the other side, it's not quite obvious to me yet how I'm going to remove that. So I'm going to come back to it. Now, as you saw, we've also got the car lifted up onto new blocks, which is much higher than it was last time. The problem I had last time when I was working on the rear end was the gap was just not quite big enough underneath the car for me to work and wire brush and angle grind rust away. So this time I've come up with a better solution and made some blocks out of some hardwood on the front, and also we've got another stand in the middle which should help in case the other one fails, and the rear's on wheel stands. So it's much higher than it was, there's a lot more room to work, and I think it's pretty solid as long as I use common sense. If anyone had any better ideas about that, please do let me know in the comments, but I'm quite happy to work under there as long as I'm sensible. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to whip off my shiny new HSD coilovers and 5 lug swap, which was recently fitted, as you may have seen. So that way these will be out of the way and I can start working on taking off that old front subframe and that old steering rack. So that's the struts out on both sides, and also these wishbones are now loose apart from where they connect to the subframe. I'm not going to take these wishbones off. Instead, from here, I'm going to try and loosen these 2 big subframe bolts on either side, just so I can make sure they move around. They look quite crusty. And then what I'll do is I'll get a jack in and I'll take them all the way out and lower the subframe down with the anti-roll bar, the steering rack, and the wishbones attached, hopefully. Oh, straight in the eye. Well, that's one. And 2. Excellent. Deadening linkage is the only thing holding it on now, I think. Now that mess with the power steering's cleared up, it's time to whip this exhaust off. It's only held on at the back at the moment by the back box hanger and the mid hanger. So let's get under there and get that shifted. Okay. Now I'm going to empty this clutch fluid, take off this slave cylinder, and also start removing some of these lines.
nice and easy. Luckily, this doesn't appear to be a mouse nest, it's just a load of old leaves. But with this drain totally blocked, you'd expect us to find a bit of rust here, but nothing yet. Now, final piece of sound deadening. So it looks like this deadening must go in before the fuse box in the factory actually, because there's not really any way to get it off without doing a couple of cuts, which luckily don't look like a big deal. So I'll cut it there for the bonnet release cable, I'll cut it there for the wire that comes to the fuse box, and then it should come out, but it's quite intricately positioned. It did tear. It's highly annoying, not sure I'll put that back. That's all the sound deadening off from this bulkhead, and I'm actually blown away by how good the condition is underneath here. I was really expecting to find some rust, even a bit of surface rust, and it's like it left the factory. I actually can't believe how good this car is, considering how crappy it looks from the outside. Where the steering column comes out from the cabin here is a really common place for rust, I suppose because water ends up soaking into this and it just rots away over time, but really not even a sign of surface rust. Factory fresh, I'd say. Same story for this here, where the heater area drains, even though it was clogged, not even a sign of rust. Factory fresh. Where the heater matrix comes out and the brake servo, again, no rust whatsoever, nothing at all, even quite shiny. Looking further into the transmission tunnel, we can see again where it was covered, looks factory fresh, which is brilliant. There is a slight bit of rust underneath this heat shielding which shields it from the exhaust. That was kind of stuck on, but it peeled off. The end stud is pretty gone, unfortunately, but everything else just looks like surface muck, not really rust even. One of the few bits of rust in here is this just on the battery tray. Now, when I first saw this, I thought this was probably the tip of some kind of rust iceberg, but it turns out that this is actually the worst bit. Who would have thought that when we started this? So you can probably tell I'm absolutely over the moon with what I found here. Really pleasantly surprised. But it's not all good news in the engine bay, unfortunately. Round this front area at the front of the wheel arches is definitely a problem. This is a really common spot and this car's got it. Not as bad as I've seen, but it's going to definitely require some cutting and welding down here. So it's actually been a really successful day on the E30 project, and I'm actually way further ahead than I thought I was now I found out that this firewall area is actually sound. So the next thing to do is to give this all a clean up, remove some of the final bits, probably figure out that fuse box, and then I can start getting to my welding on this front end here. I'm not really certain how I'm going to do that yet, but I'll do a bit of research, and if you've got any ideas, of course, please leave it in the comments. There's probably standard fixes for that I'm not aware of yet. And following that, I can get to cleaning and undersealing the front end underside of the car like I did the rear, and then I can put my front subframe on, potentially paint this bay, and then we're a lot closer to fitting that new engine, which is my main objective. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, please do make sure you give us a like, and please do feel free to subscribe so you can follow along and see what comes next. Thank you very much for watching.